Welcome to the premiere episode of the North Texas Community Difference, powered by the Difference Media LLC. Our host today is the creator of The Difference and the North Texas Community Difference series, Lendon Wilson, joined by an esteemed panel of guests including Nathan Smith, Paul Fisher, Brian Poduska, Josh Small, Alan Lester, and Diane Cassell. This show is all about the power of community involvement and the impact it can have on your business and your local community. Throughout the episode, we'll be discussing the mission of The Difference, shining a spotlight on the importance of professional networking communities and organizations, and sharing our future plans for the show. Join us as we explore ways to get involved and make a positive impact on your community. So, tune in and learn how you too can become part of the North Texas Community Difference and make the difference for your business and the community you serve.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the North Texas Community Difference. We spent about a year last year. Nathan and Brian and I both welcome to the show again. I wasn't going to say welcome to the show because you guys are always on here, so I don't have to welcome you. But for those watching that may not have ever seen it before, we started a pilot program last year of the Community Difference. Started that with Plano, and Nathan pretty much headed that up. And it's a show created to really spotlight and showcase the small business owners within our community that are having some incredible impacts. And we've expanded that into our networking organizations. And so I'm going to talk to these guys just a little bit. We've got a big panel today. We've got Josh Small with WeatherTech General Contracting. We've got Paul Fisher with Certainty Home Loans. And we got Alan Lester with Town Square Mortgage. Alan and Josh have been with me for, quite a while. Paul is one of our newest, and so we're going to introduce him today. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we're all going to be involved in these community shows and how we're going to use it to network and help our networking partners expand their network. So, guys, just introduce yourself to everybody, and then let's talk a little bit about the last year and the Community Difference and what you guys thought about it.
Well, it looks like Nathan's muted, but so I guess I'll go first. My name is Brian Poduska. Real Property Management Focus is my company. I've been part of The Difference really since its inception. Back when we were in a physical studio and had a different format. So really have come a long way since then. The general foundation is still the same, I'd say. It's the things that make the difference in business and life. It's just it's really expanded in what its reach and scope can be and will be. So I've had a great ride. I've really enjoyed being on the show, and I guess part of my what I've done on the show. We had a show called Real Talk with Brian Poduska. We're still going to continue it in some way, shape, or form, I believe, down the road. But I'm throwing all my effort and sweat equity here into the North Texas Community Difference and look forward to it. We also had a sports themed show last year, second half of last year, which is really, really fun. Has some really, really entertaining guests, both locally and nationally. We had the Coach Jason Negro of St. John Bosco, the team that won the national championship, I guess you can call it, for a lack of a better organized term in the high school football ranks. But so we had fun with that. But again, we're kind of refocusing and repurposing ourselves to really commit to the North Texas Community Difference. And like I said, I think we can go a long, long way. So I won't take up any more time, but that's who I am in a big nutshell, I guess.
All right, thank you, Brian. Nathan.
Awesome. My name is Nathan Smith with Infuego Financial Group, partner with a number of other fantastic financial organizations. Been a part of The Difference now for a couple of years almost. I guess this is technically my second show, but a rebranding of the show from last year a little bit when we focused specifically on the Community Difference in Plano. And so I'm very excited to be a part of an expansion as far as multiple cities and multiple regions in the North Texas area. And like Brian said, really taking the message of The Difference, meaning, giving local businesses and communities a voice in what's going on in their communities, but also specifically businesses being able to see and be visible to other businesses, right? I mean, if we could understand how many small businesses there are in our midst as business owners and be those primary patrons and patronizing those businesses, that would make a huge difference, not only in North Texas, but across the country. I mean, small businesses, as we know, are really the lifeblood of our communities, our towns. Obviously, corporations have their place. They do a lot of good things, but it's the small businesses that really make the difference. But they're also the ones that struggle a lot because, as you say often, Lendon, it's not because of a product or what you do specifically, but just basically not enough people knowing who you are and what you're about. And so a big part of the difference is highlighting the difference that certain businesses and people make in their community to get them recognition, not for accolades sake, although that's nice, but just to be visible and realize that, hey, these are people that are making a difference within your community. So excited to be a part of this new iteration, excited to be a co-host. Obviously, anytime Brian and I can be on a show together, it's a lot of fun, and looking forward to today and what the future holds.
Awesome. Let me ask you guys a question before we bring on our other guest. Do you think that small business owners, the business professional networking groups the chambers, the master networks, BNI, all the different organizations that have been created to help us get more visibility, do you think that even though they're amazing organizations, do you think they're still underserved as far as brand awareness within the community?
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
And why do you think that is? I mean, some of the groups have 50, 60, 70 members in them, but yet they're still struggling to get the attention they need to hit the next level of their business. Why? Give me some thoughts on why you think that might be, because I'm not diminishing the power of the organizations. I just think why we created this was to help them provide a tool that will allow those organizations to expand that brand awareness.
Well, one, I think in general, and I've only been a part of a couple of different groups, but in general, they are teaching the right things, but what's being taught and what's being heard and implemented are always obviously two separate things. And at the end of the day, I think people, small businesses, business owners, limit themselves to direct relationships and direct transactions. And we talk about not being transactional, which is obviously a good thing. That's more of a mentality with which you approach networking. But at the end of the day, they don't look for, I guess, a good way of triangulated connections, if that's a word. If that,
no, it is. I like that.
What I mean by that is, like on LinkedIn, when you're marketing, when you're doing stuff on LinkedIn, you have first degree connections, secondary connections, third degree connections. We don't look at second and third degree connections and opportunities with the people that we are networking with. And that's usually where, because we talk about, when you sit down with somebody, like when someone joins Brian and I are in a networking group, and someone joins our networking group, the average person knows 700 people by first name. So there's a new market of 700 to 800 people. But it's actually much bigger than that, because those markets then also know 700, 800 people. So it's potentially every time you meet somebody, it's an infinite number of possibilities. And I don't think we spend a lot of time looking into I'll use the LinkedIn terminology, the second, third, fourth degree connections, opportunities. Maybe I help somebody with this because they'll help somebody with this, and somebody will then help me with this. Like, you look at that way of triangulation is really kind of a good way of putting it, I think. So the training is there. It's just, I think a lot of times people don't know how to think beyond, Brian, I'm going to do business with you, you do business with me, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm going to come at it from a slightly different angle on the answer to that question, Lendon. I think with the radio show and podcast, it's networking, but it also puts a story behind and a personality behind the folks that are on the show. So we've over the course of the last year and a half, when we had Real Talk as a business themed show, I was the host, but I had my 8 co-hosts that rotated every week, which is how I met Nathan, which was fantastic. Not only did I meet Nathan, but I met all the guests that he brought on the week that he hosted the show or co-hosted the show. with that, I not only did I meet him, right? So you meet somebody in a room, if you go to the Chamber of Commerce in Frisco, right, there's 120 people at the breakfast. It's fantastic. It's great to have that energy and that vibe in the room. But what you don't get is the backstory with everyone. Through a podcast and a radio show, you have a business owner, you get to hear their story. And everybody has a story that another business owner can relate to, whether it's, hey, you may be kicking butt right now, but it took you a really long time and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get there. Or there was hardships and the business failed and you start another one and it failed and here you are, you have a successful one. Whatever the story may be, it's hard to get that in a networking meeting without doing all the follow-ups, right? Which certainly you have to do one-on-one meetings to get to build relationships, but this is a way to get your story out and get your personality and your personal brand is, hopefully congruent with how you do business, right? So that I think that's the unique thing that this offers. Not to mention that, all of Nathan's guests that came on, you can then do the face-to-faces and go even further in depth. But I think that's the unique thing that this offers.
I'll share one thing with you. I think you're both right on point. And I think that where maybe the missing piece of the puzzle for a lot of the networking groups, and I'm going to give an example, but I think that as you're interacting with other professionals and as you're working through your networking and serving clients, there is a huge advantage for people to be able to visibly see that and watch you live your story, right? And I'm going to give you an example. I shared this with someone the other day. One of the reasons that I really started thinking about this over 3 years ago was because I was sitting at a Starbucks waiting on someone to come in that I was going to do a face-to-face with, and we were going to meet. But there were two gentlemen sitting behind me that were doing the same thing. And I couldn't help but overhear everything they were saying. And it was incredible. I wanted to turn around and get involved in the conversation because it was so compelling. And I listened and I listened and I listened. And I started thinking, this is back in the beginning stages when all this was coming through my vision. I'm like, oh my God, if that would have been on social media for every one of their current clients to hear, and for every future client that they might be able to get to listen, it would have been a game changer. And a lot of times just those interactions are what's most important. So I'm going to stop there real quick. I want to bring in our other guests. We have Alan Lester with Town Square. We've got Paul Fisher, and we've got Josh Small. I'm going to bring them all in now, and I'm going to start with Josh Small. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Then we'll go to Alan. Alan's got a work day today. He's not like all the rest of us, and he hadn't made his $1 million yet, so he actually has to work today. But we'll go with Alan, and then last but not least, we're going to bring on our very newest partner with the difference, and that's Paul Fisher. But Josh, take it away. Tell everybody who you are, how you've been involved with the difference, and then we'll move to Alan.
Well, my name is Josh Small, and thanks, guys, for having me on the show. I've been involved. I'm with WeatherTech General Contracting, and we've been a general contractor for commercial and residential customers here in DFW and in San Antonio, Texas. I've been a part of the difference since the beginning. I've been mainly a sponsor. I've been on a few shows, but I love what's happening here. The guys that are on the show, the importance of what they're doing and how they're doing it is great for the community. And that's why I want to be involved. That's why I've been involved for as long as I have been, because I believe in what we're doing and all the guys that are on the show with me.
And Josh, I really appreciate, your support over the years. It is kind of funny. I don't think about that as much, but, Brian was one of the first people I ever met before I ever even spoke. We met at, where was it? Legacy West.
That's right.
For lunch one day, first day, Dustin Payne, good friend, introduced us.
Yep.
Josh, you were one of the first guests that came on, and you got involved with us then. Then I think it was Nathan, and then Alan, but really appreciate your support, and thank you very much for believing in the difference. And I'm excited. I've been a stalker now for 2 years trying to get you more involved, because I you're the kind of business person that needs to be visible so people can see how it's done, not just how you run your business, but how, your professionalism and things like that. So really appreciate you being a part of it, and excited to have you and Alan, who I'm about to introduce, as one of the key components of the new Rockwall show we'll be kicking off. So Alan, I'm going to let you go now.
Hey guys, just as Josh said, thanks for having me on the show. So I think I've known Lendon for 20 plus years. We met way back in the day when we were both account executives. But Lendon came to me with this, I guess, a couple years ago, and I think I've been involved a couple years or so. And I just thought I loved the direction of the way it was going. As Josh said, I think I've been on maybe 2 shows, but for the most part, I've just kind of helped sponsor. But I am excited that it's coming to where you're going to come and start to talk about people in the Rockwall area, because I've been in Rockwall for 15, 16 years now, 17 years. And I mean, with the growth that's out here, I just think I think it's a great area, along with your Frisco, your Plano, just to kind of talk about what's going on and introduce and talk up all of our business owners. And I think it's a great show opportunity.
Appreciate it, Alan. Appreciate you being a part of it. So we're going to go to Paul now. Paul is our newest station sponsor. Paul and I met probably about 3-4 weeks ago, maybe it may have been that long. And just to show you the power of connection, Brian Poduska is the one that introduced Paul and I. So they met, I guess, got to talking a little bit about what was going on with the difference, and Brian introduced me to Paul, and we're plugging Paul in now to this network. And Paul, we couldn't be happier to have you. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm excited to be here. You're right. I mean, I met Brian through a spinoff. We were talking about networking groups. I met Brian through a financial group that I'm involved with, and he and I kind of hit it off. And I was actually really interested on his business that he does. I mean, how interesting that was to be in property management, and how he comes across property. So it's part of that community connection, and just meeting different folks that whether it's not so much of what's in it for me, it's how can I be connected to this guy? I'm interested in what he does. And so but yeah, then Brian introduced me to you, and now I've got some other folks that I met today. So it's exciting. I mean, I'm very honored to be a part of this. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're gonna get into the kind of the meat and potatoes now that everybody has been introduced, and we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of community involvement in personal and professional development, and how we are going to leverage the community difference to do that. So I'm going to real quick, I'm going to post this up. Give me 1 second. By the way, if anybody is watching and they wonder why I look like I'm not paying attention, it's not that I'm not paying attention, it's that I'm also producing. I've got 3 screens up, I've got buttons everywhere, and I am trying to drive the ship while I'm also trying to talk to everybody. And if anybody's ever ridden in a car with somebody looking in the back seat, you kind of know what I'm talking about. So let's get into this a little bit. Let's talk about how each one of you plan to use your partnership, your involvement with the North Texas Community Difference, to build your relationships and to expand your relevance within the networking communities that you have and with the communities that you live and serve. So who wants to go first?
I'll jump in. For me, I specifically have a passion for people in the middle income brackets. I think that are from a financial standpoint are very underserved in a lot of ways, and so that's a lot of what we do. I obviously have a passion for entrepreneurship, and as everybody here does, and as we continue to grow and open up new offices, it's an exciting thing for me. So I want to use the difference to talk about a little bit about what we do, but more than that, as I talked about at the beginning, just developing those tertiary relationships, not only with the gentleman on the call here and future guests, but just being able to leverage this platform to be able to meet other people, right? Whether or not they end up being a client of mine or they end up working with us in one capacity or another, continuing to push through, down the rabbit hole of connections, basically, and finding those people that are going to be a good fit for what we're doing. But then in turn, being able to offer them something that's going to give them the visibility that they need in their businesses, their lives, et cetera. Whether it be they need a mortgage or home loan or all the 1,500 things that Josh does that I can't even list out because his company does everything, it seems like. But just being able to utilize the resources here and in various levels of connection, I think is something that I'm really excited about, and just getting to know people better. I mean, that's the big deal, is being aware of a business that people are aware of in your community is a good thing. Not because you get notoriety or because it's an ego thing, but just because, like Lendon says, I mean, if you want to make a difference, if you want to be able to help people have to know what you're doing. And so I look forward to, being able to utilize that for our own business, but more importantly, being able to increase the reach of the difference, whose long-term goal, of course, is to help other businesses do that in a synergistic kind of way. So I'm excited for all those different aspects.
So let me follow up with that, and then we'll get everybody in on this one as well. We've all heard, if you've been to any business coaching, mentorship, read just about anything, that it's very important for entrepreneurs, professionals, self-employed, whatever you are, to create a value add and a value proposition. Would you all agree with that? Yes. Is that not how we kind of can distinguish ourselves when we start to build relationships?
Yep. Yes
or no? Okay.
Yeah. No
so
questions.
I'm going to share a quick story. Some of you've heard it, some of you haven't, and I'm a storyteller, so I'm going to do this one quick because I've really, as many times as I've told it, I figured out how to do it faster. About 20 years ago, I was in Austin, Texas, and I was speaking with a loan officer, a mortgage broker, and he was in his 70s. He'd been doing it forever. And I went in, I told him what I did at the time and how I was going to help him and his clients. And he basically looked me in the eye and he said, basically, all you're trying to do is get into my database. And I about threw up, right in front of him, because I was like, holy crap, I just got called out. I'd never viewed it that way, right? That's not how I viewed it. But the reality is that was really what it was. I wasn't bringing anything to him he didn't already have. And fortunately for me, he spent some time with me, and he said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to leave. This was on a Wednesday. I want you to leave. I want you to come back next Wednesday, same time. And I want you, through the next 7 days, to create a proposition where we can build new business together. And if you can do that, and we can build new business together, I will then consider allowing you access to what I've built over the last 45 years. So I had a 3-hour drive back to Dallas. I thought about it for 2 days. The time I had no idea what I was doing. And finally, whether it was a God thing or not, I had an idea. I took it back to him, and he loved it. He loved it so much, in fact, that as I was walking out, he called a competitor, another mortgage broker that had been a friend of his, and he said, I've got this guy that's going to come over, and he's going to come and see you next Wednesday, another week, and he's going to bring you a proposal that's going to help you build new business together. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, this is the greatest day, of my life. And then as he hung up the phone, he looked me in the eye and he said, do not give him the one you gave me. You need a unique proposal. So now I'm back in front of the bullseye, right? I mean, but was able to do it. And that was a lesson I learned probably 20 plus years ago. And one of the biggest mistakes I've made is not being able to share that with people as far as what we're doing with the difference. This is that value proposition. This is that way for you to go out and partner with someone that may be resisting partnering with you right now. They may already have someone. They may already have a mortgage loan officer. They may have a contractor. They may have a property management company. But if you can show them how to build new business with you, do you think that they're going to decline that offer?
No.
No, absolutely not.
I doubt it. Now, how can we use the difference to build new business? Anybody want to venture into that? Don't be shy, guys.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. I mean, what it comes down to, just like anything else when you're doing business, right? It's building relationships, right? And I think it goes back to what I talked about a little bit earlier, in the fact that everyone has a story. Everyone has an opportunity to share that story. And that story, it's not just, what you're seeing coming through your screen, however you're viewing it right now. It's the network of folks that are part of the difference, right? So it's almost like, picture like a virtual Chamber of Commerce meeting that you can tap into, or you more than likely know a good portion of the folks that are in, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce or in this case, the difference. And you can tap into that network, and then you can also share it out. You can invite folks into it. It's really a different, completely innovative venue through which you can build relationships. Of course, everything is, you're going to have to meet face to face at some point, but it's one of those things that it's just a different and unique way to build relationships. And I think that's what it all boils down to. It's just this isn't go to a meeting on Tuesday and maybe meet a few new people that come to your meeting. It's every single time you're on, you have the opportunity to meet new people.
I'd almost like to see if I can't even pipe in on what Brian said and even what Nathan said. I found when Nathan was talking to this, on the intro about the, second, third, and fourth on your LinkedIn that you don't tap into, and then even what Brian was just saying right now. But it's, it's the connecting people, whether it has an impact on you or not. I mean, and think about, when you say, who needs a painter? Hey, call my guy. He's the guy you want to talk to. I mean, I think that's how the community impact and difference is, that you get connected with so many people that you get passionate about what they do, and you've gotten a relationship with them, and it's kind of back to what you say, Lendon, like know, like, and trust. You become passionate about offering up your friend's services, or hey, call this guy, he's my mortgage guy, or call this guy, he's my my lawn guy, or whatever it is. But I mean, I think that's what the overall connecting and networking. I think that's the kind of the guts of it. Call my guy. So, I mean, I think that's an important, and sometimes it's a long game, but gosh, you kind of get into it, or get out of it what you put into it.
Exactly. Guys, we're going to pause right there real quick. We're going to run a quick ad, and then we'll be right back in just a little bit, okay?
Got it.
The Difference Radio, live stream, and podcast. The voice of small businesses and the communities they serve.
Over the last 24 months, The Difference has evolved into a powerful internet media company that helps small businesses and local communities and nonprofit organizations create, produce, broadcast, and distribute a variety of shows, all designed to empower our communities, the businesses, the people, the places, and the events that make our cities, communities, and the folks that live there so very special.
With almost 1.5 million viewers and listeners in the last 2 years, The Difference and its unique strategy of positive impact branding has helped communities and small businesses be seen, be heard, and be remembered.
In a world that is consumed with negative press, media manipulation, and propaganda, The Difference, along with many others who believe in and support The Difference, understand that there is no better way to make the difference in our communities than to highlight the unsung heroes and high achievers that call our towns and communities home. And we wanted to create a platform that does just that. One that brings awareness to and reminds folks of the goodness that lives within so many of us and our neighbors.
And don't forget to hit that like, follow, and subscribe button and tune in each week so you can experience the difference.
All right, we are back. Had a little feedback there. Apologize for that. Anyway, we're going to get back to now talking about the North Texas community difference. We're going to just kind of wrap up what we were talking about. And then we're going to move into kind of how this is all going to play out as far as the communities we're looking at currently, future communities, and how people can get involved and what we're looking to do. Brian, I know that, you have had actually some inquiries from out of state about your business and about your services because they saw your show on the Difference before, right? Talk about that a little bit, about really the surprise of how powerful that was. The fact that, you know, you've got somebody out of state, they're looking to move into our state, and hopefully they move in and accept our ways and don't bring theirs with them. But that's a story for a different day. But, you know, if you're looking on the internet and you're Googling real estate agents, property managers, and there's a static page versus 15, 20, 30, 40 videos with you living your professionalism, how impactful is that?
Yeah, it's amazing, and I didn't initially think of when I go back to when we first started, right, a long time ago, and I think a lot of the folks who originally joined looked at it as, okay, you're going to get direct business out of this because it's a different form of advertising. It's a very simplistic way of thinking about it. You mentioned, you know, getting phone calls from folks that are out of state. That's absolutely what happened. And I've had others that have been put in touch with me that then went and did their quote unquote research, right, as you know, to vet you out as a potential vendor for them or a service provider. And of course, we've got shows that are out there, whether it's through Facebook or YouTube or, you know, whatever different venue they can find you. You're exactly right. They see you living, breathing. I guess theoretically it's an advertisement, but at the end of the day, it's you being you. As we've talked about through the years, we screw up on the show all the time. We make fun of each other. We have a good time, but at the same time, we're professionals and we do what we do. So, you know, we had the sports show that you see behind me over here. So we have a little bit of fun with it, but at the same time, we are who we are, and your true personality comes out across. You do the show enough, people are going to know who you are, and they're going to want to know if they have a pretty good idea whether they want to do business with you. And you just never know. Back to your original point, I guess, Lendon, is you just never know who's watching, where they're watching, and how they're going to stumble upon you. And to your point, Lendon, it's this sort of, you know, the ability to put your personality out there is way better than a picture that may be 30 years old, the famous realtor picture, and then the actual picture. I'm sure you've all seen those memes. You know, I have one of those on my business card too. So, you know, I got to live it myself, but yeah, so this is the real us. This isn't the realtor picture that was taken 30 years ago.
That's a good point. You know, when you think about it, we're all in the sales industry, right? We're all selling in a way. Most of us call it consulting or helping or assisting or whatever. I think a lot of clients look at it as us selling or influencing. And I think that we have become conditioned to believe that everybody puts, when we get ready to go, whether it's buy a new car, everybody's got this high energy sales personality, right? Is that who they are all the time? Are they really that upbeat, that high energy? No. And this being able to be on a show frequently and consistency really starts to show people your true personality and your true commitment to your career. So I think that's important. Anybody else have anything to add to that? Guys?
I do real quick. I mean,
this is an interactive show, so.
Well, I was going to say, you know, I found that interesting because you know, a lot of times, you know, I'll take things as far as if I meet with new clients or new realtors or new referral partners, I almost look at it like the no sales call. I mean, I'm not there to kind of get to know them and see if there's something that, you know, I can either help them with or be a resource. I mean, there's often times where there might have been, you know, some sort of, you know, loan situation where I had to give it to, you know, a friend of mine that I'm in chamber with. I mean, she does mortgages too. She does some of the weird ones. But yeah, I mean, there's enough business to go around, and it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's, you know, trying to connect in your community and having the positive impact for your group and for where you live, you know, being invested in where you live.
All right. The last thing we're going to talk about on this, then we're going to move into the future of the North Texas Community Difference, who we're going to help, how we're going to help them, how we're going to partner. as a business professional, we're always looking for strategic partners, brand ambassadors that can really sing our praises and help direct and guide new business towards us. And when you combine that need from the people that are looking to grow their business, and you're looking for ways to get referrals, how impactful would it be to have a tool where you could approach someone that may be the CEO, general manager, whatever it may be, of a business that employs 100 to 200 people, and by bringing that person on, and when I use that number, the reason I use that number, I do it intentionally because they're not going to have the budget of some of the bigger box stores to market and advertise their business, right? Would you all agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're just like the rest of us, right? They need more exposure. They need more brand awareness. They need to be seen, be heard, and be remembered, one of our taglines. So inviting them on a particular show that can really shine a spotlight on who they are, what their vision is, what the journey's been like, as well as talk about the impact that their business has on the community. I think that they could see value in that. But by you being the one that does that, do you feel like that you now have created that value add or that unique value proposition that will help open doors? Because if I am the general manager of a local business and we have 150 employees, and either of you invite me on the show once, twice, maybe more, at some point in time, and I say this because it's happened. It's happened with The Difference in another show. At some point in time, if I am truly relational and I have helped that person get what they want, which is more brand awareness, I have an opportunity then for that person to sing my praises within their organization, within their business of 100 and 150 employees. Imagine doing that on a regular basis throughout a year or 2 years or more. Share some thoughts on that. Nathan, we'll start with you.
I mean, I kind of went out on a rabbit trail while you were talking, because I was just thinking about those opportunities in the community and how simple it is. It's just a matter of doing it, right? Because I was just thinking, like a small local grocery store, right? Or something that just, has exactly what you said, 50 to 100 people. And the opportunity there to, like, everybody wants to be on a podcast or live stream. I don't know why. They just think it's cool. And it is cool. Obviously, we're all here for it. It's kind of cool. But people want that exposure. But to your point, Lendon, they don't have the ability to do that, the know-how, the budget, whatever. And so being able to offer one of these shows, in their community, to come on, get exposure, but meet other businesses, other people, is not only going to give them more awareness of other businesses, but obviously give people in the community and other businesses awareness of them, which is very important. So leveraging this tool and these shows, and I see Lynn and I and Brian have talked about how we see more themed type of shows spinning off than just these community different shows. And there's obviously a number of other shows already in the works, already happening. But I think that's where so many people have struggled before, the guests that we've had on, because they don't see, they see it just as this is a podcast, or this is a live stream, or this is whatever, right? And obviously The Difference does podcasts and live streams. There's two separate mediums. Instead of using it as a tool. And I think for me, that's one of the most exciting things, because I can't tell you, I've had many guests on I guess it's the third show. I don't think I've ever had anyone tell me no, that they didn't want to come on the show. Well, what does that tell you? Well, one, that immediately is a value add to them, okay? Because they're getting exposure. But then that gives you the opportunity to then, share, sit down with them, share what you do, whatever. But then what if they become a sponsor, or what if they become a host, and then they now have the ability to leverage the show? So they want to do business with, they want to partner with X number company, and they don't know how to get in with them. now they have something to offer. And that's really what it is. I mean, anytime you're building relationships, we learn about this, in our networking group. You talk about discovery and areas of opportunity. Well, there's a huge one right there. And I think for a lot of our guests in the past, it's been a one-off thing. They come on, they talk about themselves. They don't share the show. They don't see the long-term effect of leveraging not just the show, but the exposure for people and how, many iterations that can go deep into a leg of networking, basically, of relationships. And so, for me, that's probably the most exciting thing personally, but that's not only going to grow the show, grow the difference, grow our networks. It is the quintessential key to what we're doing, in my personal opinion. Does that make sense?
It does. Anybody else?
Yeah, I want to tag on with what Nathan said. The whole purpose for me is to help people become more successful in what they're doing. And if I go into it with that attitude and have people on the show and highlight what they do, that's going to make them feel better. It's going to bring business to them. It's going to build great energy for everybody on the show. And to me, that's the important thing. I think if we look at it as we're helping somebody else, we're really out there trying to promote them, trying to build their business and really care about those individuals. You're going to see a return in the end, but you're building that energy. You're building on new relationships. You're strengthening old relationships that you may have in the community. And that's personally, I'm looking forward to bringing a lot of people that I know who own businesses in the Rockwall area and highlighting them and just letting them tell their story, getting them involved and pushing that. Bad things aren't going to come from that. Only good things can come from that. If you're really looking at people, helping them develop their business, develop them personally, in their life and business, you're going to get back twofold what you put into it. And that's what I'm looking forward to is really highlighting those people, helping them be more successful.
How many of you have heard the Zig Ziglar quote, if you give enough people what they want, you'll get what you want?
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody heard that? How many of you as professionals, if everybody knows who Joe Rogan is, I'm sure if you don't, I'm kicking you off the show right now. How many of you, if you were invited on his show to give a summary of your life as a business professional, would turn it down? Anybody?
Nope.
Not a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why would you go on there?
Exposure.
Exactly. You're tapping into his audience, right? I mean, he's got millions and millions of people. He wouldn't bring you on that show if it wasn't important, if he didn't feel it was important for his audience to hear your story. Correct?
Correct.
Yep.
We've had over 4 million viewers on The Difference since its inception back going on. It'll be 4 years this coming October. That's not Joe Rogan numbers. I get it. But when you break down population within the small communities, we still have a broad reach. We still have a good following. And there are still people that are listening to our shows that may not know who that person is that you're bringing awareness to. Now, by doing that, what kind of relevance does that build for you as a professional and as your brand? Anybody want to speak on that?
Yeah, I will, Lendon, because I've seen it happen. You gave the example of, walk into a local business that has 100 people, or even smaller scale. Let's call it staff of 50, restaurant, or the one that comes to mind, if you remember back when we had on the show some coaches and some local businesses that were supporting my son's high school hockey team, that made it to the national competition. I guess they didn't make it to the finals, but they made it into nationals, right? They won the state of Texas hockey championship for high school, and they made it into nationals. Well, it was a big deal for the community, big deal certainly for my son and our, in our family. But it was really neat to see some of the local vendors come on and support the boys, and they offered things to the boys. So again, it goes back to that awareness thing. All of a sudden, they had the opportunity to provide something for free to the team and to others because of the team that they didn't have that opportunity before, or they never would have probably even known that Frisco High was in the national championship running, right? So a very small, minute example, but it's very community focused. It was sports related, but you can get the same result whether it's a larger topic, right? It doesn't have to be sports related, but it was grassroots community. We had the coaches on. We didn't get any of the boys on because it actually aired during the school hours, so we didn't want to pull them out of school. But we had local vendors that came on and talked about it and really built the excitement around it. So I bring that up as an example, again, small, but you can relate that to any sort of business scenario or situation or partnership opportunity with local vendors that you may not have direct business with, but they're going to see you. They're going to know, they're going to refer you because you gave them that opportunity to come onto the show and, talk about whatever they had going on at that moment.
That's a great point. I want to follow on that. I want you guys to think about something, and we're going to spend about 2 to 3 minutes on this, and then we're going to move on to what we've been talking about in the future of the show. If within your community, whether it's Rockwall, whether it's Frisco, whether it's McKinney, whether it's Plano, if every influential person within that community knew who you were, knew a little bit about your podcast, about the connection with the podcast, and knew that you were bringing on some powerful, needle-moving professionals each and every week, how many doors do you think that opens for you as far as other businesses wanting to communicate with you in whatever capacity? It kind of, if you want to give an example, that's why we would all want to be on Joe Rogan's show, right?
Yep.
So if you create yourself in that as that icon within your community, then the people that want to get their message out are going to be looking to you first, right? They're not going to go to the local paper and buy an ad in the paper. Not that they shouldn't do that, but this is another opportunity for them. And that's what we're trying to build, is we're trying to build that relevance with our own professionalism and our brand. And Brian, I think that's most every one of us in here has been hit up at some point in time by some sports team that needed a donation, correct?
Yep.
What'd you get out of it?
Usually nothing.
Yeah.
Well, and that's okay, because a donation is a donation.
That's a good feeling, right?
If you get a good feeling and a pat on the back, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what if I could do that and be on a podcast where 10, 15,000 people saw that I'm supporting that particular team? Is that a game changer? Does that have any perceived value improvement within your brand?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'd almost chime in real quick to what Josh and Brian said. The impact is that it's less about you and more about either the business that you're bringing on for the podcast, or that you're interested in their success. It becomes less about you and more about them, but lends you credibility and maybe as a local expert in your field. So those are very good points.
So Paul, let me tag on that real quick. We all need to stay top of mind, right?
Yes, sir.
How do we do that without being salesy?
You have to be involved and be seen. It's kind of like if you're going to your chamber group or your network group. Do you go and then that's it, or do you go and do you follow up and do you get involved in whatever activities there are? You've got to be. It can't be just I'm going to do it for that hour, then I'm done for the day. I think it's kind of a monthly calendar event, but you've got to. You signed up to be successful, and you signed up to be impactful, and you signed up to be known, and invest your time. And so I think it can't be just a one-off. It has to be kind of part of your life, part of your lifestyle.
Yeah, it's got to be your mission in life to help others.
It does, but the question that I'm asking is, how do you stay top? You can go to these events, but a lot of us just still blend in. I look at some of these networking events and some of these organizations, it's just like an 8th grade dance. You got all the guys on one side against the wall, all the girls on the other side against the wall, and everybody's too afraid to come out and ask somebody to dance, right?
Yeah.
How do you stay top of mind? That's the point that I'm getting to is, even if I go to all the networking events, if I go to the happy hours and I pass out business cards, how am I standing out? What am I offering them to get that second follow-up one-on-one, or to earn a right to ask for their business?
I think that's just it, is that when you do offer something, and obviously what we have here is a huge thing to offer, but when you do offer something, you automatically become top of mind because you have given something. And, we always talk about in our organization, giving to give, right? And yes, I mean, obviously we all want to receive at some point. I mean, that's just natural and necessary for our businesses, but giving to give is a great way of staying top of mind and connecting people. Like, everybody wants to be a connector, but in order to be a connector, you actually have to connect people. In order to do that, you have to meet people. In order to do that, you have to go out and follow up and do the things necessary. But I think where you were talking about, Linda, where it cuts off, and I addressed this earlier in the show, is, and I've even talked about this in our organization, how important follow-up is and how much area for improvement that I have, but also just businesses in general. But it is that offering of something, right? And when you can offer something like exposure and, brand development and brand awareness and connecting people specifically with other business leaders and community leaders that are particularly of interest to their business or organization or influence, whatever, well, that's going to keep you top of mind because you've just done something. You've served them in a capacity that they need. And so, you do that enough times, I think you can easily ask for business, or at least have a conversation, or they're going to, you do it enough, you give people enough, they're going to come to you. I mean, and I think your presence on social media, despite it being the bane of our existence in some capacity or another, is very important, and how top of mind you are there, and something I've been more aware of lately and working towards. But at the end of the day, when you give something to somebody, they're going to remember you. And I think that's where we really need to take a hard look at what we have here and how to excel in that area. And it's actually a pretty simple process. And I'm just looking forward to seeing the fruit of that.
Well said.
Yep. Very good. All right. So let's move in now. We've got about 7 minutes left. We want to talk a little bit about where we're going with the community difference. We talked about how it came about, what the vision was. We talked about how to leverage it, which I think is very important. And I spent more time on that than I originally had planned, only because, and Brian and Nathan know this, I feel like the past 3 years, I have not done a good job in articulating how to get a return of investment. When I say investment, it's not just monetarily, it's your time, right? Mm-hmm. How do you get a return on your time for being a part of the difference? One that's going to pay dividends for you in business growth. And growth encompasses a lot of different areas. It's not just monetarily. It's not just an invoice, right? There's a lot of different opportunities for growth. And that, I believe, we have created one of the most unique tools in doing that. So now let's talk about what we're going to be doing with the community difference. As I mentioned earlier in the show, Josh and Alan, both Rockwall Heath residents, been there. God, fellas, how long have y'all been within that community?
05 for me, so 17 years or so.
And Josh, what about you?
About 5 years.
Okay. All right. But y'all are both well connected within that community even before you got there. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to have Josh and Alan. They're going to be working, and we're going to work within their networking groups, and we're going to be inviting the people in Rockwall onto the show and bringing some exposure onto the show. I believe that Brian, you're gonna help focus on the Frisco McKinney area. Am I right on that?
Yes, sir.
And then Nathan, which ones are you gonna? I've kind of slipped my mind. Which ones are you gonna be focusing on?
Plano, Wiley, and Allen, I believe.
Yes, that is correct. So that's where we're going to be going first. And as we develop these shows, we're going to have what we would call a spinoff, right? So we're going to have the different communities on at different times. But what our dream and our vision is that Rockwall becomes its own show, and it is a weekly show that has enough support, has enough attention, has enough followers that it can sustain itself. And then we break off the Allen show and we break off the McKinney show. And so that's really the vision long term, because right now doing a different show every week, a different community every week, as Nathan and I kind of figured out last year, it really doesn't do justice doing a different show every week, because there's so much going on within these communities that needs to be shared. So that's kind of what we're going to do. I want to talk a little bit about now. I want each one of you to share some of the networking communities that you're in and how you want to be able to incorporate that networking community into your partnership with the difference. Who wants to go first on that?
I'll do that. Just I have to get off here shortly for my event. So I run a local networking group. It's called BNI. So I'm president of it. And one of the biggest things that I want to do with it, obviously, is I'll use it to help showcase the other business owners that are in the group. But the funny thing is that, as you were talking earlier, and y'all were about you've got to give first, the first principle of it is givers gain. And I know that there's not everybody is going to call and look for a mortgage. It might be 2, 3, 4 years. But as I'm continuing to pump up their business and showcase them, they're going to obviously share it on their Facebook pages and whatever it might be, their social media, and in turn I'm getting exposure to their 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people, and then they're it's amazing at what social media can do. But I think just showcasing just the 20 people that I have in my group, what that can do for their business and mine I think it's huge.
Exactly. Anybody else?
I think and Brian, you can tell me if you agree. Brian and I are both a part of Master Networks, and I kind of look for the same thing. But being able to utilize the difference to help grow those groups, which in turn is going to grow the potential guests and hosts and reach of the difference, and vice versa. But utilizing the shows as a platform for kind of an incentive, in a sense, to, hey, we'd love to help you get started on this journey of branding and awareness, and using it as a teaching tool, which is going to do exactly what Alan talked about, which is continue your personal top of mind and brand awareness. And it's really interesting just to see how when you look to a give first mentality and you continue to do that, it does come full circle, and it does tend to just kind of fall into place when you're utilizing it. When I sit down with somebody, I'm thinking, well, can I help them as a client? Okay, well, that's my business. Yeah. Or are they looking for a different opportunity? They want to come do some work with us. We're always expanding, opening up new offices. Okay, well, are they in need of a networking group? Is their business, are they struggling with, daily operations or running a business? Okay, well, maybe I need to talk to them about our networking group. Or do they need, or is it the difference? Like, I have all these different areas of which, I have opportunity to expose them to, and all of them have the potential to lead back to me as a business owner. But again, even if it doesn't individually from that particular person, it's going to with their network and their people and their connections. And so to me, I use the word triangulation, but I really think about it in that capacity, because I think that's the deeper level of networking that people miss. And so, I'm looking forward to leveraging it in that particular capacity.
Yeah, Lendon, you talk about the different networking groups, so just calling them out real quick, right? So Nathan already mentioned Master Networks, part of the McKinney Downtown Networking Group, part of the Frisco Chamber, multiple different smaller kind of break-off groups, I'll call them. Paul, you mentioned the financial group that we have, financial professionals. Also have 2 or 3 other groups that meet on a less regular basis, but with different purposes, but it's really all about business networking. So I won't beat the dead horse already, because you guys have all said it very well. It's elevating the other folks that are in those groups. And because you're in so many different groups, you have the opportunity to offer this opportunity to them. And so I think there's a lot of, I hate to keep using the word opportunity, but it's true that you can leverage all of those different groups and offer this to all those different groups.
I'm going to jump in real quick. So, I'm part of the Frisco Chamber and on their ambassador group. And one of the things with our community, obviously with having, PGA moving into town, Universal, my impact with them is I always think about staffing levels. Where are they going to find, that's a lot of line level employees that, have to come through there, and where are they going to find housing? And is there anything that we can do, even as certainly as a company, with some of the programs and things that we offer to help people with closing costs or things like that. But I always think about, it's kind of one of the things I always think about is, where are they going to find people to get all those, positions filled? And is there something we can do, to help make that difference or help alleviate some of that pain? But, we do things with Frisco ISD as well. So it's kind of getting all that, my hands around those groups to see, where we can help connect and bring them all together.
What about you, Josh?
I'm a part of the Republican men's group here in Rockwall. I'm also involved with a lot of social stuff like cornhole leagues and different things like that where I can interact with people. I'm also a part of the C12 group in Rockwall. I'm not sure if you guys know what that is, but it's a Christian men's networking group for business owners. There's obviously there's a lot of, friendships and things like that, and people I meet that those people own businesses. And so that's my networking group. I want to grow that. I want to be more involved in like leadership roles and things of that nature. But 2023, my goals are to get more involved with the difference and get those business owners that I know onto the show and enhance that into those social groups that I'm a part of as well.
Awesome. We're going to finish up real quick, and we're over a little bit, but that's okay. I'm the producer, so I can do that. So I'm going to ask one final question because I want to tie it all together this way. How many of you have been involved in networking groups and you stand up and you give your 30-second, 1-minute elevator speech, and you've done this over and over again, and over time, all of these good friends that you have within this group kind of don't hear that anymore, right? It's kind of like white noise. Anybody experienced that? And they know who you are. Mm-hmm. They're not being rude to you. They've heard it. I've heard you, Brian. I know what you got. I know what you're doing. How would that change if you stood up and said, everybody already knows who I am and what I do, but I want to invite everyone in this group at some point in time onto the podcast I'm associated with? Would that move a needle?
They would be listening.
They would be listening. And that gives us a new opportunity to reconnect to people that may not have really listened to us in the beginning. That's the final word. I'm going to let Nathan close us out because he's really good at that. I want everybody to pay attention. We're going to be on Wednesdays on the North Texas Community Difference. And Nathan, I want you to go ahead and close us out, bud. And I appreciate you all for being on. Paul, thank you so much for joining the team. Looking forward to some great things in 2023. Nathan, take it away.
Well, thanks, guys. It's been a real pleasure as we get ready as we launch the first rebranding of the Community Difference, now just beyond Plano, but now onto all the North Texas communities. So excited for all of our guests, Josh, Brian, Paul, Alan, of course, Lendon for hosting, and we look forward to what the future holds here, being able to leverage this great platform in all the different areas of business and community life throughout North Texas. So stick around for next Wednesday at 11:30. We'll be getting the chat and the link for that out there so you guys know what's going to happen on the show. And so thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to everybody that makes the difference a special place as we continue to grow and make a difference in our communities. So you guys have a great week. Continue to work hard to make the difference in your communities, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 11:30.
Thank you for tuning in and watching our show. If you would like to see our next show, or more shows like this one, just click the QR code and go to show schedules, or just follow and subscribe to our channels to get updates and notifications of this show, and many others like it.